And before this video begins, I'd just like to give a special thank you to my Asban Team level patron, Fallon Cortez. Thank you for supporting the channel. For over 6 decades, Doctor Who has captivated audiences with its imaginative depictions of alien worlds, futuristic technology, and the endless possibilities of time travel. Among the show's many recurring themes, artificial intelligence has played a fascinating and evolving role. From early portrayals of sentient computers to more recent explorations of AI ethics, Doctor Who has used these artificial minds as a lens to examine what it truly means to be human. This video essay will explore how the series has depicted AI over the years, reflecting both our hopes and fears about this rapidly advancing technology. Yeah, if it wasn't already obvious, I got an AI to generate that intro. And if you couldn't tell, well, then it's time to start worrying. AI has been a hot button issue for the last few years now, with text, image, video, and even music generation constantly developing and getting more and more accurate to human creativity. It's almost like we're living in one of the dystopian hellscapes of an 80s sci-fi movie, where you can't tell between man and machine. But Doctor Who has always explored AI as a concept, and particularly as a villain, with all sorts of evil robots and sentient computers trying to conquer or destroy the world. So, let's just have a quick look at it all. First of all, the definition of artificial intelligence has been fluctuating a lot recently, with a lot of people misunderstanding or misrepresenting it in different ways. It's become a bit of a bogeyman to the extent that even AI in video games gets demonized as if it's generative, when in reality it's something that has existed for decades, just a way to, give NPCs their own behaviour or make events happen. The official Oxford definition of artificial intelligence is the theory and development of computer systems able to perform tasks normally requiring human intelligence. It's very broad, but when it comes to sci-fi media, it's a lot more straightforward. I'm talking evil computers, Terminators, human-like androids, although that's kind of the same thing, all that lovely stuff, you get what I mean. HAL 9000 is the shining example of this, an initially friendly and helpful AI that begins to malfunction and turns villainous when faced with being shut down, since it's determined to carry out its mission with mechanical stubbornness and determination.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
And that's one of the defining, persistent characteristics of most AI villains, a strict adherence to programming and coding, even when that conflicts with human morality and complex situations. We see something like this with the war computer Mentalist in the Armageddon Factor. This is a computer built to direct a war between 2 different planets, but when the war is over, it just decides to destroy itself and everyone on both sides because, the war is over and the machine isn't needed anymore.
It's mindless now.
Which is basically what happens when you take blunt logic way too far. Similar to the clockwork droids in The Girl in the Fireplace, where you have these robots on a ship named the SS Madame de Pompadour, so they decide that the only way to fix it is to get parts from Madame de Pompadour. Even though that's not actually how it works, on a literal sense, they're not wrong. But by far the most common type of Doctor Who AI is the corrupted, megalomaniac kind. Computers which go beyond their original boundaries and develop different personalities and further sentience. Look at the Oracle from Underworld, for example, which was the computer of an ancient ship carrying the race banks of the entire minion race. No, not minions, they're different. Over time, the Oracle enslaved the crew and its descendants as a planet formed around the ship, with the Oracle becoming obsessed with protecting these race banks at all costs. Wotan is another infamous example of an AI becoming like a dictator of sorts, a normal supercomputer that became twisted due to a complete lack of morality. Wotan was meant to be a problem-solving computer and central organization unit for telecommunications, but naturally it all went wrong. It thought that the only way to progress Earth would be to move beyond humanity, so it tried to conquer the planet with its war machines and kill everyone. The normal scenario for Doctor Who. I guess it would be like telling an AI to fix humanity, but it decides that the only way to fix us all is to kill us all, so there are no more issues to deal with. It's kind of like the Vardis from Smile, who believed grief was the enemy of happiness and therefore killed anyone who wasn't happy, because that's just how their programming made them see the world. A very literal approach to their basic tasks, but a horrible and costly misunderstanding. At this point, it would be remiss of me to not cover Xenon from Face of Evil, a ship computer that evolved into a living creature, which I suppose throws its nature as an artificial intelligence into doubt, but is very much presented as a mad computer that took the Doctor's personality along with developing another of its own. Naturally, this meant Xenon went insane and created a whole world in its own image with two warring groups. It poses an interesting question, because what happens when you leave advanced sentient technology to its own devices? It did all of this under the belief it was being helpful and guiding humanity towards becoming superhumans, when in actuality it was manufacturing a culture of fear and inequality and, committing eugenics.
Ooh, that's bad.
However, it was actually outside meddling that made it this way, since the Doctor fixing it in its early stages created these different personalities to begin with. It makes you wonder how often the evil of AI is simply a reflection of our own innate evil and the flaws of the creators, since they are the ones that teach the AI what to think or how to see the world. An AI only knows what's good or what's bad because that's what we teach it, so it can easily be manipulated or turned against others. The conscience of Marinus raises a lot of questions like this, because it was created as a perfectly impartial judge, but such a thing is nigh impossible when there are creators with their own unconscious biases and intricacies, which no doubt led to its gradual shift into making all evil thoughts and actions impossible, because it can control minds. Safe to say, this is a horrible idea for a variety of reasons, and a prime example of why we can't trust computers to play every single role in human society. Because what happens when it decides that something is evil when we don't agree? Sometimes the AI of Doctor Who outright depends on continuous human involvement. The master brain of the Mind Robber has no function without a human puppet of whom it can feed on creativity and imagination. It has no such imagination of its own, so it plugs itself into the brains of humans or other entities to use them. Whether or not this constitutes as an AI is up for debate, however, since we don't know its origins or its intended purpose. We don't know if the master brain was created by a different being or somehow developed as its own entity itself. But what we do know is that Boss is the ultimate fusion of humanity and artificial intelligence. Introduced in The Green Death, Boss was a computer created by Global Chemicals to run their operation, but it quickly became maniacal and eccentric, like a dictator. This was because of its link to the human brain of Jocelyn Stevens, whose humanity taught Boss concepts of illogical thinking and inefficiency, which it therefore forcefully programmed into itself and became sentient, enacting its plan to, guess what, conquer the world. Boss is another example of an AI misconstruing its purpose and mission, since it believed what was best for its company was best for the entire world. Once again, a stark warning of the intricacies and nuances mechanical thinking struggles to take into account. Once again, Boss wasn't created evil, almost no AI actually is, but the tools used to build it and the purpose programmed into it allowed it to spiral into such an overwhelmingly evil and dangerous force, continuing to showcase the common understanding that the threat AI poses is a threat of humanity's own creation, due to short-sighted ambition and a mishandling of the true capabilities of the sheer incredible technology we sit upon. Technology that can and will far outgrow us and overwhelm us if we aren't careful enough. However, not every example of artificial intelligence in Doctor Who is an evil, maniacal supercomputer with ambitions of world conquest and annihilation. Some people might point to Mr. Smith from the Sarah Jane Adventures, but he was more like a naturally evolved alien fused with a computer, so it doesn't exactly count, it's a bit of a grey area. But the entity I really want to highlight as the most outright sympathetic and friendly AI in the show is Dr. Moon from Silence in the Library. Cal is a rather tragic tale, a dying child whose brain was transplanted within a computer to control the planet-sized library. She's presented as a very sympathetic character, a half-somewhat AI consciousness, forgetting her true nature as a human. But the true indisputable AI in the story is her companion or carer, Dr. Moon. Thanks to sci-fi shenanigans Aliens, this was an entire moon as an AI, maintaining the systems of the planet it orbited. It is engineering on an astonishing scale, humanity able to build such a large computer megastructure like this. Dr. Moon manifests as a very caring and sweet man caring for Charlotte within her virtual reality existence. He's very calm and understanding with everyone he meets, taking on a nurturing position within the story. Therefore, he's a prime example of Doctor Who showing that AI can sometimes be a good thing, as long as it's built with the right level of care and programming with a good intention. It's illuminating when you explore the production of the story and find out Stephen Moffat always intended for it to be a future incarnation of the Doctor, who had uploaded his own consciousness to the library's moon in order to be with River Song after she dies. It's a very utopian, almost naive approach to AI, suggesting this selfless origin can prevent the same kinds of corruption and misinterpretation that befell previous AIs and supercomputers within the show's own history. It's a nice thought to have, but such technology can never truly be deemed safe and incorruptible because of the core nature and ethical limitations of such a machine. Because artificial intelligence is still a level of intelligence, which essentially means it has a machine brain, and if something has a machine brain, then it's capable of developing its own thoughts that we don't always program within it. You just have to give it enough time. Of course, it's hard to talk about villainous machinery and computers without touching on the most obvious, the Cybermen. Now, the Cybermen themselves aren't actually really AI. The definition of artificial intelligence stipulates a requirement for computer systems to carry out tasks normally requiring human intelligence. However, the Cybermen are augmented humanoids, meaning they still have human brains and capabilities most of the time, just without the emotional elements within our own nature. But due to their mechanical nature and rapid development, they have become intrinsically linked to artificial intelligence thanks to battle computers like the Cyberplanner and the Cyberium. The Cyberplanner was introduced in The Invasion, and it's a very by-the-books AI, fiction-wise. It essentially serves as a strategic assistant like a military version of Siri or Alexa. But the Cyberium is significantly more advanced. A fluid, liquid-like entity able to enter the bloodstream of people and turn them into living computer hosts, flooding Percy Shelley with extreme amounts of information and almost killing him by doing that. We don't know much about how the Cyberium actually operates or works, but it's one of the most advanced AI entities within the show's history, capable of incredible calculations regarding outcomes and an almost symbiotic relationship with its host. The Cyberium is a terrifying example of the quick development of AI technology, how advanced it can become to the extent that it becomes the controller, not the control. A piece of technology transcending its original purpose as a tool to be used. Speaking of AI tools, I want to again return to the reason artificial intelligence has become such a common thing to hear about, due to its integration and development as software to aid or outright replace human tasks. Image generation is by far the most well-known of these types of AI, with numerous services online allowing you to type a prompt and create an image in a fraction of the time it would take a legitimate human artist to create the same image. Of course, with an AI you aren't actually creating anything. The systems are trained on a database of existing art, which is a copyright controversy of its own. Whilst AI art can often look incredible or realistic compared to human talents, it still isn't authentic art, and very rarely manages to successfully masquerade as such, although it is rapidly improving and becoming harder to tell. A lot of people like to see the episode Wild Blue Yonder as a commentary on image generation, with the villainous Not Things attempting to perfectly replicate the Doctor and Donna. They begin with a lot of visual inaccuracy, with their arms being too long or their proportions inconsistent and unrealistic, all issues famously documented throughout the development of image generation, which still to this day struggles to accurately depict fingers or hands. Writer Russell T Davies has never publicly commented on whether or not this story is a commentary of artificial intelligence and generation, but it undeniably taps into the same fears AI has always conjured up: being replaced. Ever since the 1700s, the word android has been within the common vernacular, referring to mechanical devices or automatons resembling humans. But it wasn't until 1886's Tomorrow's Eve that the more modern idea of artificial humanoids began to develop in earnest, becoming a staple of science fiction media throughout the next 180 years. Androids are usually seen in the same light as a lot of AI tools. Why send a human to go fight a war when a soulless machine can go and die in their place? Why pay workers when you can use a synthetic being that can't be hurt, doesn't get distracted, and has no need for money? Doctor Who has always been sympathetic towards such life forms, affirming that they have a right to live and receive fair treatment because they are capable of independent thought and emotions.
My name is Jennifer Lucas, not a factory part.
But the fear of replacement is a lot more complicated than this, because much like the AI we currently debate about, androids have the potential to replace our jobs, thoughts, and even our lovers. Tomorrow's Eve itself is a good example of this, with the fictionalized Thomas Edison creating an android companion for his friend Lord Ewald, whose fiancée isn't good enough for him apparently. Unlike most sci-fi, Doctor Who has understandably tried to shy away from the commentary of androids as intimate companions, but it has definitely maintained that the threat of replacement is all too real of a fear. The Autons are a prime example of this, facsimiles of humans that are regularly used to infiltrate and replace human society. The ultimate goal of artificial intelligence is often seen as creating such a being that passes all known identity tests and can perfectly replicate human behaviour to the extent that you no longer know if you're talking to a human or a machine. And once AI reaches that state, you can never be sure who is real or not, or whether you yourself are human, because your entire existence could be a lie. Artificial intelligence is an incredibly broad landscape. ChatGPT is AI, as everyone is well aware by this point. But so is the magic eraser in Photoshop. Online services use AI to generate entire complex songs and music, but your computer also uses AI to check your spelling and grammar. However, even though all of this is under the umbrella term of AI, spell check can't destroy the world. At least, not literally. It probably can society-wise. So when people talk about the dangers of AI, it's obvious what they mean. And Doctor Who has been incredibly consistent with these tales of evil supercomputers and corrupted machines attempting to carry out their tasks in the most literal ways, even if that means killing the humans they were created to protect. It's a lot more sympathetic with the plight of synthetic humans and androids, even if their nature as advanced artificial intelligence can threaten our own way of life and our identities. In some cases, the show has even explored such beings wishing they could actually, go the opposite way and become human, like the half-faced man in Deep Breath, who knows he can never become human, but keeps transplanting human organs into him in a vain attempt at forcing himself to become human. But Doctor Who's fears of sentient computers are very well founded, since it's all too likely that one day in the future, humanity will have to confront mechanical beasts of our own making. As AI threatens to spiral out of control due to short-sighted ambition and desperation for technological progress at all costs. We like to think we're above the fictional creators of things like Skynet, but we have no way of knowing the contents and consequences of the Pandora's box we have slowly been opening further and further as we continue to develop and refine AI to replace day-to-day admin tasks and even companionship. But if that day ever comes, Doctor Who has taught us that there is only one course of action to take: blowing it all up. But anyway, that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit different to usual and I probably could have gone in more depth, so if you do want to see that, let me know and I can probably make a much bigger video about this whole topic. So, thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. And I'd just like to give an extra special thank you to my Asbantium level patron Fallon Cortez, my Platinum level patron Matthew Burns, and all my Gold level patrons: Chris Douglas, Daniel Shillito, Thomas Zar, and the 3 Railway Engines. Thank you so much for your support.